Chapter 13. The very next morning was Saturday. At breakfast, I told my parents what I wanted to do. Before I knew it, my mom was on the telephone making 1,000 teen calls, and before I knew it again, we were in the family car driving to the new mayor's house. There were a lot of photographers waiting on his lawn, and when my mom and I walked up the path, they looked at us but didn't take any pictures. My mom rang the bell, and I started to get butterflies, and this time I also felt moths. I had to remember to tell Elliot about this fact. A woman opened the door. "Can I help you?" she asked us. "Yes, I called this morning. Mrs. Frankie B. Miller would like to apologize to Mr. Malloy," my mother said to the lady. Then the lady smiled at my mom and looked at me with a wink. "Certainly," she said. "I'll be right back." Then she shut the door, and I looked at my mom, and we waited and waited. Finally, the door opened, and there was the actual future mayor of Chester himself. I heard the flashes of the photographers in the background. The mayor held up his hand to them, and they stopped. His hand was like a magic wand. Then he reached out his other hand to my mother, and with the smallest smirk, "I'm really smart about small smirks," said, "Mrs. Frankie B. Miller, I didn't think I'd ever have the pleasure." My mom shook his hand and said, "Mr. Malloy, congratulations. My name is Anna Miller. This here," she pointed to me, "is Mrs. Frankie B. Miller." And that's when the mayor's small smirk turned into a very big, beaming smile. "Well, I'll be." Then he looked at my mother and winked. "You're very young looking to be a Mrs.," he said. "I'm not really a Mrs.," I said, because I wasn't sure if he was joking. "I'm just a kid." "Indeed you are." Then my mom nudged me and said, "Don't you have something to say to Mr. Malloy, Frankie?" "Yes. Mr. Malloy, I wanted to say that I am a million teens sorry for any trouble I caused you. It's my whole entire fault. I'm really sorry that I almost ruined your big election." "Well, I appreciate your apology and I accept it. Would you care to have your picture taken with me for the newspaper?" "Yes, very, very, very much," I said. Then he took my hand and I followed him onto his front lawn. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the photographers, "I'd like you to meet Mrs. Frankie B. Miller." That's when all the photographers burst into little laughs, and some people even clapped. Then there were lots and lots of flashes. The almost mayor of Chester stooped down, put his arm around my shoulder, and smiled for a machillion pictures. At the very end of the pictures, I turned to him and asked him the most important question of the world. "Mr. Malloy?" "Yes, Frankie?" "Can I send you my resume?" He laughed and patted me on the head. "Frankly, I'd like nothing more," he said. It was the best day of my entire worldwide life. When we got back in the car, I looked at my mom and she asked, "Ready?" "Ready," I said. Time for stop number 2. Mr. Sanders opened his own door and seemed happier to see me than I ever would have imagined. I gave him the letter from my class and apologized to him. And guess what? He also accepted my apology. Then he invited us inside his house for some tea and cookies. His house didn't have any assistants or radio stations, and even though it only had one office, it was still very nice. My mom and I sat at the kitchen table with Mr. Sanders. He told me that yesterday he was very upset by what I did, but that when he thought about it more, he realized I was a very special kid. He said he was very impressed that I wanted a job. Then he told me that I reminded him of his own self at my age. I wasn't sure this was good because I'm a girl and he's a boy, but my mom told me later it was a compliment. I'm not so smart about compliments. Then Elizabeth came downstairs and we all talked and laughed. We decided that Tuesday was a very good name and that when I was 18, maybe I could have Tuesday's job. This was the most excited I'd been since I'd gotten my picture taken just a little while ago. Chapter 14. When I opened my bedroom door the next morning, there was a newspaper on the other side waiting for me. On the very front page of the Chester Times was a picture of me hugging the mayor. I picked it up and ran downstairs. I could barely believe my own eyes. "A happy ending for Frank and Frankly" was the headline. I would never, ever throw this newspaper away. I spent that entire Sunday smiling. I didn't think I could ever get any happier. But I was wrong. That night, my dad and Mom came into my bedroom. My dad had something behind his back, but I couldn't see it. "We're very proud of you," my dad said. "Apologizing is hard to do, and you handled it just like a pro," said my mom. "Thank you," I said. "We thought you might like this," my dad said as he pulled out a present from behind his back and gave it to me. I opened it excitedly, and when I looked at it, I gasped the biggest gulp of air imaginable. It was a picture frame, and inside the frame was the picture of me and the mayor from the newspaper. I put it on the nightstand next to my bed where I could look at it forever. "We're very proud of you," my mom said, as she turned out my lights and closed my bedroom door almost all the way shut, but not entirely. I lay in bed filled with so much pride-idity that I had done something that was actually grown up. Even though I still felt grumpy about not having a play date with Elliot for one entire week, I felt like a real grown-up. I did all the right things. I knew I did too, because I was going to sleep with no moths or butterflies. But before I fell asleep, I remembered the most important thing. I got out of bed and walked over to my garbage can. My resume was lying at the bottom, and I pulled it out and put it next to my bed. Tomorrow morning, my mom said she'd take me to the post office. I was going to put my resume in a professional envelope and send it to the mayor. He probably needed someone like me in his office.